Alrighty, y'all. Highly requested episode of the Sales Bro Pod, episode 11, with Mr. Grant Lannin. Grant, thanks for coming on.
Yeah, bro. Thanks for having me. I'm super fucking pumped.
So, highly requested. I've had multiple people actually reach out to you. I think somebody reached out to you and they were like, please come on the pod. Thankfully, because your DMs are flooded. But yeah, man, we're gonna get into a lot today. I think sales, you've probably got infinite game to spit, but outside of sales, I think you can just put these young ladies and gentlemen on massive game. So let's get to it, man. Let's set some context. I want to hear more about like your story, and I know you've probably mentioned it a few times here and there. But just before we dive into that, like, can you, for anybody who may not know who you are, what you do, like, can you give us the elevator pitch on you?
What I do now? Yeah. So now what I'm doing is I'm helping people, so salespeople or people with sauce or people that can talk, basically launch a coaching business off the internet purely from organic content. So if you can sell, and selling is a huge part of it, or if you can just talk, then we can position your content in the right way. And if you're like, courageous enough to make content on the internet, which I would recommend anybody do because it's crazy leverage like we're doing now, you can position yourself with your own offer and then close deals, hit 10K a month. It's a fucking life hack. So yeah. I always tell people like the natural evolution as a closer is to make your own offer. So that's kind of why I ended up here, because I was going to do a sales offer, but I'm like, well, let's actually get them out. You know what I mean?
I think that's it's just what the market needed. Because there's a lot of people that are targeting high ticket closers or just salespeople, and like, hey, you got this skill, you can probably make a business and make a lot of money. Which, dude, I'd agree with. Like, that's what I did. So,
yep.
All right, so now you're doing this now. You're having pretty decent success with it, but you didn't start here. Take us back to young Grant. Young Grant. What kind of guy was he?
Yeah, young Grant. So I was actually extremely different than I am now. And I always tell people that, and people really don't believe me, but I was shy at first. And then once I'd open up, I'd have my natural personality come out. But like pretty stifled as a kid. Like I wasn't super expressive. I was super into games like RuneScape, bro. I fucking destroyed RuneScape. I always played sports and basketball. I was always like, we had a neighborhood, so I'd always just be finding people like, hey, can this person play? Can this person play? Bro, literally like OG door knocking. Like I'd hit like 7 doors. I'd get like 2 or 3 friends. We'd run like a pickup game or like just something fun. And then we'd just go do random shit, cause trouble, right? So that was me as a kid. Never really was super businessy because it was like video games. So like all my stuff, like I never thought about money, because I was like pretty standard middle class, like just not poor, not super rich, like just kind of we were what we were sort of thing. Yeah, bro. So it was like pretty standard upbringing, I would say. Had a lot of freedom. So actually I was in Portland, Oregon, and then I moved to Bend, Oregon. And all those kids never had like a childhood because their neighborhood was huge, kind of like you said, San Antonio was. So like they never played with kids, and I was always out. So I had a great childhood. I did BMX. So I raced bikes, won a state championship when I was like 10. So I was like fucking on my little dude. I was riding a bike at like 3, like it was crazy.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was just always outdoors, hanging out with people, having fun.
I had asked for like user requests, and a bunch of people were talking about RuneScape, and I didn't realize that was like something that you talked about. But dude, I was doing the same shit. Like, yeah, I played RuneScape, but just like the outdoorsy kid, like I would call my friend up at fucking 8 a.m, call the house phone, wake up the whole house and be like, yo, is Josh awake? Like, can Josh play today? That kind of shit that, I mean, that doesn't even exist. Like house phones, like nobody has fucking house phones anymore.
Bro, I like kids playing low-key doesn't exist. Like we would I would recruit the boys and we'd have like wrestling tournaments in my like house. And like we would be slamming each other. And then, like that, I don't know if you experienced, like as a kid, you get that testosterone thing when you guys are wrestling. So we'd have dudes like get that triggered and they would just start throwing punches. And then we had like restraining orders on half the fam. Like it was just a lot of fun. Airsoft gun wars, like all just random stuff. Shitting in bags, lighting it on fire in your neighbor's thing. And then he'd come out and just tells all your family and you're grounded for 3 weeks. Like just fun shit.
Just kind of like, I mean, not up to no good, but just kind of like doing whatever you wanted. Like we would, we would do the whole like ding dong ditch, like TPing houses, throwing eggs, like stuff, just like dumb kid shit. Which okay,
Yeah.
so that kind of like you weren't like naturally a super like go up talk to everybody golden retriever type of person, but when you knew
Yeah.
that person, you would definitely like you'd be able to connect and open up and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, all the approaching stuff I had to learn. Like I really had to learn that because like naturally I don't even today, like it's just so against my nature to like go to talk to people.
Yeah,
I naturally want to like either be invited in or like just not talk from a distance and then kind of like I warm up down the road. And I
yeah,
can remember that as a kid too. But yeah, but I mean, selling standpoint though, I was like closing my mom on the playground. I was fucking talking people into shit on RuneScape. Like I've always just
yeah.
been a social person. But yeah, so
Just
that was kind of my childhood. And then from the sales perspective, like, you know, we all have childhood trauma that we got to unwind, right? So I was like super monotone. I could not express at all. I had to fucking unwind all that shit. So now I actually have some tonality, but they called me the monotone sales guys because like I literally couldn't. It was like one fucking tone. And then yeah, so that was a whole nother story. But I
yeah,
mean, fun childhood though, like just playing, having fun.
gotcha. So how did you like being that you were the person you were? It doesn't sound like you would just naturally get into sales. Like, how did that happen?
Getting into sales, yeah. So I was in college, so I played basketball in college for a couple years, and then ended up quitting basketball, going through that whole fucking identity crisis, like no one talks about. Like if you're an athlete and you call yourself something your whole life and it ends, you're like, what am I, right? So I didn't know
Yeah,
what to do. Ended up kind of attaching to business after that. And then I started a marketing company when I was like 19, got that up, was doing okay. And then I thought I made it, was making a bunch of money. And then like I was an idiot. So like spent all my money, blew everything, blew this, blew that. My family had a cookie company. So I was baking cookies in there. I don't know if you can see this, but like I got a bicep scar because I dropped a sheet tray on my arm and just
yeah.
third-degree
Damn.
burn. And then basically when I crashed, so like that company, I was making some money and then PayPal held money from me. And I wasn't like, I just spent everything I got and I was doing SEO. And so I never had asked myself like, hey, if I get them the result, like if I get them to the first page of Google, why would they keep me? Literally just never thought of that because I was just an idiot. So, and I bought Sam Ovens like consulting accelerator for like 3 or 4K or whatever it was. So that's how I learned even how to do that.
Yeah,
So then did SEO, was doing that like in a week span, got both clients the results essentially that they wanted, plus a bunch of other shit happened, had to break up, and like I had no money. And then PayPal held my funds and I had no money. So I had to get a
yeah,
sales job. So I literally Google sales job near me in Portland and there's a random insurance job. I just get that. And then I could just was like, oh, this is kind of fun. And then the money was good. And it was the first time that I'd always competed in things in my life in other areas. But this was the first time like there was no age cap. Like it's everybody and because it was a corporate job. So it was a corporate environment. And like rising to the top of that, I was like, oh, like I can actually do this. And then sales wise, I already had the sauce, I would say. So I rose really early and then I solidified my number one spot like pretty quick. And so
okay,
like if you're a top sales rep, that's a fucking crazy gig. I tell people like it hits every visceral need that you have because like you're the top guy. Everybody knows it. You're getting paid the most. Everybody knows it. You're always treated the best. You could literally not show up for 3 days and then be like, oh shit, I got drunk 3 days. And they're like, yeah, whatever. You're the top guy though. So,
yeah,
yeah. So just randomly stumbled into sales off literally just a fucking like Google of insurance or sales job near me. And insurance happened to be the first one.
yeah. So you brought up something that I think would be cool to hit on too. Is like you just 19 years old stumbled into online money, Sam Ovens,
Yeah.
SEO. Like, was that just like something that again you Googled and stumbled into it, or were you like the kid who was like, "Fuck, dude, I want to make money online," and try to make it work like that?
Yeah, definitely wanted to make money online. So the classic, like I knew I didn't want a job. I've always operated a little bit differently in my life. And like anything, dude, RuneScape is a perfect metaphor. Like all these people are doing broke shit on RuneScape. And it's like, I need the M's, bro. So let me do something else. And then we stack M's on RuneScape, right? It's literally a metaphor. So in real life, it was like, okay, I know I don't want my degree. The only reason I even went to college was for basketball. if I didn't play, I wouldn't have went at all.
Yeah.
I tell people, like, if you want to start a business or you want to get into financial whatever, don't go to college. And the reason is the only argument for college that people have is like, oh, you're going to make connections. But like with Twitter, it's like you can do it online. If it's like there's an easier way and a cheaper way to fucking do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, bro. So like I tried everything. Like I tried drop shipping. I did that for a little bit, made a little bit of money. I was selling leggings. So I would have this legging store. I called it Too Bougie. And so it was like for chicks, right? And I would order these leggings and I would talk like the alpha sorority chick into wearing these things. And I was like, hey, wear these. So all your little parroter friends will buy them from me, basically. So I would do that. They'd wear them. And then I'd like see my leggings on campus. So that was like a couple $100 a month. But I had no money for ads because I was broke. So I was like, okay, this is like too slow. And organic, I didn't know anything about organic at the time.
Yeah.
So I stopped that. Dude, I tried everything, like email agency, SEO agency, marketing company, fucking everything. I didn't know about high ticket sales though. If I knew about high ticket sales, I would have been 4 years ahead. So just knowing it was, and Davi and I talked about this today, actually, before we did this, he was like, the biggest thing is like, people don't know this exists. Yeah. If I knew high ticket sales was a thing, I would have done that. No idea. So, but yeah, tried everything, dude. I bought all these courses. I've always just launched money at people and been like, show me the way. And then like, I've never bought anything and thought it was a scam because it's like, I'm going to take something valuable out of this. Like people that buy shit and they're like, it's a scam. I'm like, you're actually dumb. So bro, I was launching money in college and I had none.
Yeah, it's very similar. Like I knew I wanted to make money online and I had started with like the drop shipping. I think a lot of people were like introduced to that.
The classic one. Yeah.
Had like a store, dude. I was selling like all sorts of shit. And honestly, like, I don't know if the order's fulfilled. I don't know if the stuff went out. I don't know what happened with it. Like just multiple times, like I set up stores, just didn't pan out, bro. It's too many moving parts. Like I was inexperienced. I didn't know how to operate that. And then went to like copywriting, eventually to email marketing agency, Facebook ads, and like everything, bro. I had
the same. My arc was identical.
Yeah. And I didn't know about high ticket sales. Like I found out about high ticket sales like late 2021. And if I would have known about that, like, fuck, dude, I would have been in college, like ripping calls, stacking money, doing all that stuff. It's like the lowest barrier to entry way to make money online. It's insane.
Dude, it's a complete life hack.
Yeah. So you get into, you said you're in Bend, Oregon at the time, like when you got into sales? Or
yeah, I was in Bend and I moved to Portland.
Okay. So you search sales job near me and you find some random insurance office that's hiring and you don't even think twice. You apply. I'm sure you get in there, you ace the interview. Were you like running cold calls or like what was the structure they had for you there?
Everything. Yeah. So, and I knew like I had so much ambition that I literally in the interview, I was like, honestly, guys, like if everyone's going 30 miles an hour and there's a car going 70, like does the 70 get paid more than the 30? And they were like, yeah, which actually didn't end up being true. But I was like, my mindset was like, I'm killing everybody in here. So bro, we did everything. So it was like, it's a call center structure. So you have inbounds coming in and then you have a massive amount of dials. But when you start, it's all outbound. So you're just banging out, like, I mean, I was doing literally 500 cold calls a day because you had the CRM where you could spin leads. So you just click, call, nothing, CRM, boom, click again, and just 8 hours a day. So it was like literally 500 cold calls for a long time. And then you go into inbound and then you're basically just sitting there. Calls just come in, you're taking them. And then if it's slow, you can hit outbounds. So we were doing fucking everything.
Yeah. How, like, obviously you were a naturally competitive and persuasive person, but you hadn't been like in sales, like a sales job before. Like those first few weeks, few months, like how much of a learning curve was there for you for like the outbound
Honestly,
stuff?
I was already persuasive. There wasn't really, like, I just got in there and I was killing it just because I knew how to talk people into stuff just from life. So like that's something that is hard for me to relate to is like, I always knew how to sell just logically. And I knew like where I was kind of in the sales call right away. So I just kind of got in and ripped, if that makes sense. But I think it was because I've done a bunch of other types of businesses and I had copywriting too, closing my own clients. Like you kind of just, the hardest part is that call flow for people, right? But I just somehow already had that in my head. So literally I just get in there, I'm banging cold calls, like spinning, I'm saying crazy shit. Like I was like, I told dude on Twitter this and I saw him, or Leo's like, what do I do for a cold call? And I'm like, bro, I have this peanut butter and jelly one. And it was like, literally I'd be like, hey, I'd be like, hey, Mark, this is great. Oh, shit. He's like, what? I'm like, dude, I literally just dropped my sandwich on the floor. This is literally insane. I was going to cold call you, but it's on the ground now. And he's like, what? And I'm like, you got like 10 minutes? He's like, yeah. And then I'd pitch him Medicare. So it was just, I would have fun with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so but I ran it up like pretty quickly just because I wanted to be number one. So
yeah, dude, I've heard a lot of people taking like those types of frameworks, like the super, super off the cuff intros and call openers and like having success with them. So if you're the founder of that concept, then dude, it's working. But
I don't know who created it. It logically though, I'm always thinking like, how are my words hitting other people, right? So if I get a cold call, I know how I feel. So let me create something that would make me feel good. And that's literally sales 101. It's just like, what are you saying to people? How's it hitting them? And like, you need to think about the words that you're saying from outside yourself and like look at them from an emotional standpoint. How is this making this person feel? And then if you can do that, then you can create your own weird little frameworks like a dropped sandwich or whatever. Cause then you're like, oh, this is kind of funny and it's helpful.
Yeah. For me, in my mind, man, like you can teach people how to structure a sales call. You can teach people how to handle objections and like you can teach the frameworks pretty easily, but like teaching the sauce is like infinitely harder. Like how do you like deliver that to people that you work with? I mean, however you can really.
Like delivering the sauce.
Yeah. Like how do you instill that in people?
I don't think you can instill it. I think they have to. What I think it is, I've thought about this a lot actually. So Emerson has an essay, famous American philosopher, right, called Self-Reliance. And his point is basically like a lot of your ideas and your perspectives and your opinions, they hit you spontaneously. It's not like you sit there and craft them. It's like, oh, this is how I interpreted this thing. So his argument is like that initial thing is God or the universe or whatever, putting something in you. So your job as a human is to double down on your own perceptions and your way of life. And he calls that becoming fully self-reliant, right? So I think people could have more sauce if they just were themselves, but people are so scared of actually being themselves and being not a fucking NPC carbon copy of everybody else. That's the biggest problem because they're always thinking like, is this okay? Can I say this? Is this what I want to do? Can I do that? And so like you need to basically recreate destruct every opinion and idea you've ever been fed and build it up from ground zero. And once you get there, then you can kind of be like, okay, my way of seeing the world is right for me. Let me speak this with conviction. And now you got a little bit of sauce. So it's like ideas that are yours, original thinking, as he would say, because original words, there's nothing more powerful from a messaging standpoint. That's why everybody that we follow, that we love, they're self-reliantly operating, right? Like I love Brute on Twitter, Brute DeForce. Like I fucking love his tweets is because he's just analyzing the world, comes to a conclusion, lets it rip. Yeah. So that's like, it's like a magnetism for words, but people are afraid to do that. And if they did that, they would have some sauce.
Yeah. Dude, in hindsight, I mean, it makes total complete sense that you're doing what you're doing now and you're, pretty good at it. But dude, it's something that I've struggled with a lot. Like, again, you can teach how to run a sales call. You can teach this, and that, but like, sure. Maybe you can like wake it up a little bit, like the intuition to have the sauce or however you would call it, but it's really hard. It's really hard to do that. For people that, let's say they're sauceless.
Okay. Sauceless.
Are they just fucked, man? Or like what advice, like, is that what you tell them? Like, dude, realize who you are, what you like, and then give the most raw version of yourself to the world? Or like, how do you help those people?
Yeah, that's a great question. And this is one I pondered many a day. What it is, so all sauce is, it's being yourself. And it sounds very cliche and surface level, and I'll break it down, but that's literally what it is. So here's an example. One guy that I have in the program, right? He's an engineer, super quiet, not outgoing. And we started making content for him. And he was like, do I have to be like you? Like very fast paced and ADD? And I'm like, no, bro, like this is just how I'm fucking wired. Like I'm literally just wired like this. Be you. And so he started leaning into who he already was. So it's like kind of quiet delivery, kind of engineering words. And then he got conviction with himself. So he kind of started believing like, oh, I'm the shit, right? And that's where the sauce comes, is you have to believe that your way of being is dope. And if you can do that, you get it. So it's a confidence issue. So you can have, and people aren't okay with being their own flavor of person. But if you technically just looked at yourself and you were like, hey, I'm this way and this is fucking sick, and you doubled down and you genuinely believe that it was actually sick, then the sauce comes out. right? Because everybody that has the sauce, it's just them being themselves, being convicted in the fact that their way of operating and being a person is cool. That's literally all it is. So you can have infinite styles, but you can imbue people with certainty, right? I mean, that's a sales call, but you can't really imbue them with the sauce. They have to find it on their own, like literally.
Yeah.
And it's just unwinding bullshit. Like it's unwinding your fears, unwinding your anxieties, unwinding all your stifling behaviors internally, unwinding all the bullshit traumas that you've been carrying around, right? Like maybe you would speak up as a kid and your dad was like, yo, shut the fuck up. And then you got like, oh, fuck, if I speak up, that means I'm going to get, beat down by an authority. So you got to unwind that because now you're afraid to express. It's like a whole thing. But it really just starts with like, honestly, self-love. It's like, yo, I'm cool. I'm good enough the way I am. Let me like from a self-worth standpoint, love all your shit that you hate about yourself. And then it kind of starts coming out. It's like the start of the process. But I don't know, bro. Like I've seen some people make a sauce turn and some people don't. Like some people are super stifled that I've had come into like the dating program that I had how I learned how to do all this shit for the high ticket stuff. And then they just like were no sauce and they would just acquire the sauce because they realized that they were dope. So I don't know.
Dude, this is already super deep and I think it's going to be super, super helpful for the people listening. Okay. So let's move along the timeline here, man.
Okay.
You found out, all right, dude, I actually am him. I do have the sauce. I'm slinging these insurance policies and you're the top guy. How long did that run last for? Like when did you take the next step career wise?
Yeah. So when I was in the job, I knew I didn't want to be there forever. I felt the golden handcuff pressure of a high six. It was like 150, 170 a year ish, right? At the top of that job, and I couldn't go higher than that. So even if I doubled my policies theoretically, I was not going to make more money. So the comp structure was very strange there, and seniority was a big part of it. So like the first year, I'm out selling all the vets, but they're basically making double me because Medicare, you have recurring revenue, so you get paid off old policies. So they just have been in the game longer. So I saw how flawed that was, and I knew it was going to be short term, but it was still nice, and I had good friends, and I was dating a lot, so like I had a lot of distraction. But I knew I was going to leave. So first play was like a dating blog. So I wrote like 30 articles in 30 days for SEO, and I was selling a little dating course for like $80. And that got me to like a G a month like automatically, just because people would find it via SEO and then they'd buy it. Cause I did SEO as the agency before I got into the sales job. So I knew how to do it. And I was like, oh, I could do it for myself. So that was like the start of it. But it wasn't enough money. And then I basically was like, okay, I need to fucking actually get out of this job, because what happened was, Medicare is super seasonal. So like 60% of your yearly income is in a 3-month window. And so you get big checks in 3 months and the rest not so big. So what happened was our biggest check is December 26th, right after Christmas. And then we wanted it before Christmas, obviously, because it's like, yo, let me buy presents and shit. And they were like, okay. And then they didn't pay us for like 2 weeks. And then and they were always dangling the carrot in front of us, like, oh, we'll pay you then. We'll do it. Like, you're just being gaslit by management, basically. Yeah. And I was like, dude, I can't live like this. So that event pissed me off enough that I was like, I have to just fucking stack. So then I just started saving a bunch of money, was getting credit lines for my runway, right? Because I knew I was going to leave. But I didn't know what to do. So I was there for 2.5 years. And this is actually a point that I tell a lot of people, like, I viewed that job as my life career. So a lot of people poo-poo their jobs. They're like, oh, this is what I want to do. I'm not going to try hard or whatever. And it's like, you're fucking stupid. Like, go as hard as you can in your job, because you don't know who you're going to meet. You never know who's watching. You got to put your best foot forward, and then doors will open. So I always was even though I didn't want to be that sales guy at that job, I wanted to be number one because it was my best strategic play. And then what happened was that boss that I had, we're best friends now. Like, he was a homie. He showed me how to lead properly. He was like a great mentor for me. His wife met this dude that looked like Pitbull that was making like a bunch of money. We had a lunch and he's like, oh, dude, she's making like $900K a year. I was like, what the hell is she doing? He's like, oh, annuities, life insurance, all this shit. And so that door through that job opened me to meet my other mentor for the business that I ended up doing after that. So it was a weird one-off connection, right? Because I was like, I need a higher leverage opportunity. And so then about 2.5 years in, had enough money saved to pull the trigger. And then I just fucking made the jump. Met that dude. And I was like, bro, what do you do? Because you got a crazy yacht and a monkey and all this stuff. And he's like, oh, I'd sell annuities and retirement planning. I was like, you can make money in that? He's like, look at the boat. I was like, fuck. Okay. I was like, can I do this? He's like, well, you're a top salesperson. I'm like, yeah. And he's like, you probably could. I was like, what do I have to do? He's like, oh, bro, like 50 G's and move to Ohio. And I was like, whoa. And I was like, fuck. But then I wanted to turn my yearly to my monthly, right? So I like, in my head, it was like, there was no option but to succeed. So when he told me that, I'm like, I saw agents, they were doing like $1 to $2 million a year in commissions. And I was like, they're not smarter than me. They don't work harder than me. Like, they don't learn quicker than me. So I just fucking pulled the trigger, sold all my shit, moved to Ohio, and started that business. So
Fuck
yeah,
yeah.
so it was like a 2 year timeline.
So what's the I don't like fully understand the insurance. I know the insurance world. I know like a decent amount, but the difference between,
Yeah.
because I know some people go and sell under like big umbrella companies
Yeah.
and they got like the desk job or whatever, and then other people are like remote, they get like 90-100% commissions. Like
Yep.
how does all that play into like maybe what you went to go do was the whole like thing that people are doing now, or like can you break down that insurance landscape a
Yeah.
bit?
No, yeah. It's super fucking confusing when you're learning it and the outside looking in, because insurance is very hierarchical. So to the outside world, it looks like an MLM. It's structured very similarly, but it's not an MLM because the focus is on selling, but there is a recruiting aspect. So
Yeah.
it's like MLM-esque, I would say. But the reason it's like that is because for to sell insurance, you have to be with the state and with the Fed. And so there's all these different levels. So basically, to answer your question, you have, so what I was at that company, I was a captive agent. So that means I can only sell their products that they have contracts with, and I can't sell on my own.
Yeah.
I'm stuck with their products. I got to sell their shit. When I left, I became an independent agent. So you're basically a business owner. You can sell your own insurance products. You can generate your own leads. You just need to attach yourself to what they call an IMO, a marketing organization,
Hmm.
legally for you to sell anything. So it's just a regulational thing. So
Yeah.
basically, my mentor had the IMO. He owned that. And then I had to partner with some organization to sell insurance on my own name, basically.
Okay.
So that's what happened. So I went from basically captive employee to business owner in the insurance world, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And then
So
the
like,
IMO is supposed to show you how to sell and market and all that shit. They're supposed to help you.
yeah. So the first example is like a fucking Geico, State Farm, something like that, where you
Mhm.
can only sell their products. The next one, now you're working under a somebody who has access to all the products. It's more of like, I think that's what people are like on money Twitter. A lot of these guys are hopping into insurance. I think that's what they're hopping into. Is that right? Kind of
No, they're hopping into
something else.
captive. They're captive agents. So basically, like I have a buddy. So one of the large companies is AIL, American Income Life. So like Brad Lee,
Yeah.
he runs the same type of company. So a lot of the financial guys you see on Money Twitter are agencies under Brad Lee, if
Yeah.
that makes sense, because it's like agencies within agencies. That's the hierarchical aspect of it. So they come in as a captive agent. So what happens is they make a sale, and whoever they have above them gets an override, and whoever gets above them gets an override, and it trickles up.
Yeah.
And then they can recruit people under them to do the same. So that's the insurance game. I wasn't doing that. I was basically, you have an IMO as like a marketing agency, and then you attach as one person, and then you have to get your own products and do all your own shit, and then you're just in the game like as a
Hmm.
standard guy with a business, basically.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit different.
So I mean, it's different, but I'd imagine it's the same in many ways in the sense that like, you're
Yep.
still delivering on the service is like in the same space, right? Like you're not having to go and relearn like the entire industry and all this stuff. Like, sure, you got to learn some new stuff and change up your approach, but you get into this with the guy who has the monkey in the boat that looks like Pitbull. And then what happens from there? I assume you become a
Just
badass
started.
again.
Kind of, dude. Like that industry is so hard because you have to learn so much stuff. So like you have to learn Social Security. I had to learn teachers' pensions in every state. I had to learn retirement plans. I had to learn insurance products like 30 different times. I had to learn annuities. Annuities are the most complex financial products on the planet. That alone took fucking forever. You just learn so much stuff about like the system and all these products. So I was basically just grinding for a fucking year, dude, like trying to figure that stuff out. And it was commission only. And I was putting all this money into it, and like I'd put all this money in, and like basically go broke. Then I'd get a sale, and then I'd be like, yeah, and then I'd almost go broke again. So it was a crazy roller coaster. Like I woke up and my mouth would bleed. Like I'd literally just spit blood because I think I was grinding. Like never been more stressed in my entire life. But low key, part of me liked that because I was like, I fucking made the jump, and I'm trying to go through this. So my self respect went up a lot for me actually doing that. But yeah, so I was just trying to figure out the game, and then started slanging some annuities, some life insurance, and then basically was doing that, and then TikTok blows up and the high ticket stuff comes in on my own offer. So, and
Yeah.
then yeah,
So you were doing that, and when was this? Like 2021 or like 2020? Like, what's the timeline?
yeah, both.
Both.
2020-ish, 2021. Yeah.
And you, like, I remember when I first came onto Twitter, you were like kind of branded as like a high ticket, I got the high ticket sales job. Do you still have
Yeah.
that as your pinned tweet? The
No,
like,
I moved it. Now it's my own offer.
okay.
But yeah, so I was like on Twitter as an anon account, and I was kind of just studying the game, and I saw anybody who's documenting anything grows quickly.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me get a high ticket job in a week. And then that's what happened. So
Yeah.
I just documented that, and that got me my first like 400 or 500 people.
Fuck yeah. I think that was the first thread that I had bookmarked on my new Twitter when I made it.
Fire.
It's
go.
good, bro. Yeah.
Let's go.
So you obviously like got into some high ticket closing. When did you start posting on TikTok?
I want to say like February of last year. I think. Yeah, about February last year.
Okay. So you had like, you're kind of doing a little bit of everything, like still doing the annuities and all that stuff, and then high ticket closing, posting on TikTok, just kind of like planting a bunch of seeds, right? When did it become like super clear to you, like, okay, this is the thing, like the TikTok, the having your own offer, like when did that become clear to you?
Yeah, so basically I discovered high ticket sales like a year and a half ago. Like, and so when I did that thread, I had just learned about it and I was curious. So that was kind of me forcing myself to figure it out. So I got that dude who was selling ecom, and then I saw how to do everything basically, because they were doing like 200-300 a month, and I was like, oh, I get it now. And then same thing, I was like, this guy's not smarter than I am. Like, I just need something to do, right? And so, but that was kind of shelved. So that was just an experiment, and then I wasn't closing. It was gone. I was just doing my retirement business.
Yeah.
And then randomly by chance, I just make this I was doing like comedy TikToks trying to be funny, and like some of them would kind of blow up, but then I did like a life advice one, and then that kind of ripped. And I was like, whoa. And I didn't even know that was a thing. I'm like, Mom, I got a mill. Like, this is crazy. She's like, oh my God, I knew you were going to be famous because you're a tourist. And I'm like, fire, let's go. And then I just did another one, and then that one blew up. And I was like, okay, there's a lane here. And then I was like, you know what? If I could do two, like could blow up, I could probably do 20. So I just was like, I'm going to make 3 a day. Because I didn't even know TikTok was a thing, bro. Like, I literally didn't even have the app. And so basically, I'm just doing my business. TikTok, I'm just doing whatever, because I already knew marketing and sales and everything, like how to make I already knew that stuff. And so I just saw dollar signs because I got like 100K followers in like a week. Like, I had 2 videos explode, and I was like basically there, and I was like, oh shit. And then just kept doing it. And then I eventually launched the dating offer because I knew how to do that. So I launched the high ticket dating offer, and then I figured out a system to basically monetize the TikTok. And I was doing like pretty big months, and I was taking that money and I'm dumping it into the other business, because the sales cycle on that other business was so fucking long. Like, so we're doing like seminars and mailers. So seminars, you literally host a lunch. So you rent out a place, right? You bring them in. You're probably spending $500 to $700 on free lunch. It's like, hey, you don't know if you go to the nursing home, you're going to lose all your money. So come learn about it. And they're like, oh shit. So they come there, you present with an attorney, you guys both sauce on their face, and you give them a, hey, come see a consultation with us. And then they come meet you in the office. So we're doing that. Plus I did some online stuff as well. So you basically spend like, fucking 20K in January. And then it would take you like probably like 4 weeks to even get into the sales conversation. Another 4 weeks to kind of solidify the sale. So it's basically a 2-month sales process. Then if you close, another month to get your commission from the insurance company. So you're putting money in, you don't get it for like 4 or 5 months. So with no other income, it's a bitch. Yeah. So I was taking all this cash and funneling in there, and I was like, wait a second, like I'm doing more quickly with this than I am with this. Let me see how far I can take this. And I kind of I was doing both at the same time. But then basically the only reason I was doing that is because I wanted to make M's online anyway. And so I was like, well, I could just do it with this. So yeah, that was kind of the what I saw basically.
So you don't run the dating offer anymore? It's all the...
No, I shut it down.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why'd you shut it down?
I don't want to be a dating coach. That was literally it. So I was doing it, and then I was and like crazy results. So like a lot of the people that you guys all follow on Twitter, like went through the program. So a lot of them were in there, which is how I know them. And so like fire, like I got testimonials from a good amount of them. But then I wanted to take it to the next level. So like I was doing pretty close. Like I think the biggest was like 75 cat or 75 profit in a month with that. And it was like part-time because I had the other fucking business. Mm-hmm. And I was like, okay, it's validated. So let me see how far I can run it. But then I was like, I just can't be a dating coach for my own. I don't want that on my rep, basically. Like
Yeah.
It's really fun, but like, am I going to do that when I'm 35? No, because I see 35-year-old dating coaches and I'm like, bro, like get a job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just was like, okay, I'm going to launch a sales offer in the insurance lane, which I almost did. Or I have a couple other ideas in the chamber that I can't say because you guys are all going to take it because they're fucking fire ideas. But then I ended up doing this one here. So
Yeah. So you
yeah.
right now you fully stepped out of the insurance game? Like you're fully in
Not
on.
fully. So like I still have like I have a client meeting in 2 days. So like
Okay.
I still meet with them. So I'm not
Okay.
fully out. I just turned off spending ads on the marketing. So like if a referral comes in, I'll do it. If there's like a little whatever, like if an opportunity arises, I'll do it. But I'm not. My focus has switched to this new business basically. And then
Yeah.
I got like other stuff coming in, right? Like I bought a couple websites, so I got shit going on other than like one thing.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Just
but
building,
because
bro.
it's completely opposite. So coaching is cash right now today. That model is cash in 6 months. So just logically, it's so much better from a business perspective,
Yeah. Just building. Just building shit.
dude. Right? Riding waves.
So
It's
what is like the actual offer that you're working on now or with people?
Yeah. So now it's basically the guarantee is we get a coaching business to 10K a month within 6 months using only organic content. So you basically make content on the internet and then you sell a high ticket offer of your own on the back end.
Cool.
So I'll give you an example. So the first guy that I ever tried this with, he was down fucking bad, horrible divorce, came to me for the dating offer, right? I knew I was going to transition out of the dating offer and he could talk. And so I was hypothesizing about this offer. So I'm like, let me take you in, bro. He's like, okay. I'm like, have you done content? He's like, no. I'm like, have you ever coached? He's like, no. I'm like, do you want to make money online? He's like, sure. I was like, okay, cool. So basically just laid out the process for him. He was the guinea pig. And then we were at zero followers, zero money made, never had coached, never made content. 2.5 months later, so 11 weeks later, he's at 50K on TikTok, 40K on IG, completely organically. We do a blast. We clear like 23K. And then in the marketing, I used 16 because one guy was like, I didn't want to do it and backed out, or whatever. Because obviously they're just getting. So we did divorce coaching for him. So then that got validated, and I was like, okay. And then I just did a couple other guinea pigs, all got validated, and then we ended up with this offer. So,
yeah.
And the reason is because I believe in this more than anything. Like today, the highest leverage thing the average person has access to is to make content on the internet, just like we're doing now. It's a complete life hack in every way if people can just do it long enough. And why are you building an audience? Well, it can open doors to connections. Obviously, it raises your status. You can date more attractive people. Crazy doors that you never thought about opening, but also the money part is like sell your own shit on the back end. And so if you have a skill, it could be a coaching program, kind of like you're doing, right? Or I'm doing. I mean, it's all the gurus that you're buying from are running this model. So it's the way. And in my opinion, it's like 20 years out of the curve. Once normies know that you can make content and sell shit, everybody will do it. You get paid for being yourself.
Dude, it's so crazy. Like I think on this side of the internet, the side like Twitter and all that, like people are super in tune with monetizing the audience, and like they'll have plans to monetize before they even have the audience. But then people on the other side of the internet, dude, they'll have like millions of followers and they'll be like, oh, I made like $2,000 off of a fucking sponsored post, like just blowing it. I want to ask you, like, let's imagine you, I mean, never had the success that you did in sales. Like, how much harder would it be to do what you're doing now without like being who you are sales wise? Like, would it,
like if I couldn't sell?
Yeah, like if you just like if you went, let's say you went down the fucking engineering route and now you're like doing what you're doing, like do you think sales and the sales ability has made it just infinitely easier than it would have been?
Yeah, it's all sales, 100%. So that's why people don't make money with an audience. They don't know how to sell. And also they don't know how to market and position and angle and all the regular internet business skills. But sales is the absolute foundation. So like literally, I've met those people with massive audiences that can't sell anything, and you just imbue them with sales skills and they're 10xing their income overnight. Like literally. It's like, and it's to a crazy degree. So like, I mean, Nadia, the girl that I had in here was a perfect example. So she had a big, well, she had like, it wasn't big. It was probably like 100K right on TikTok. Was making like 300 a month, and then little coaching programs, right? So I set everything up exactly how I have it and whatever. We do a launch. I closed the first one to show her how to do it, and then she does 50K the next month. Like the first 30 days, she did 50,000. on her own offer. And so it's like, she was smart, but she didn't know how to sell. And so we did some sales trainings, and then you learn how to sell, and then you just, there you go. You're selling your own shit for, 5 to 10K or whatever. So yeah, sales is the bottleneck for like 90% of businesses.
You're primarily working on, I know you're on like Instagram and stuff, but TikTok is like the bread and butter, right?
Yeah.
What do you think of people who say, "Oh, I'm shadow banned"? Is that a real thing, or does their content just fucking suck?
So 90% of the time it fucking sucks. TikTok does throttle you. So what I mean by that is it feels like this. So you'll go up and then down, up and then down. So there is a gambling mechanism that I think runs in the back. This is a theory, right? But just from all the videos I posted, you do feel that you are on a roller coaster. So there is times where you do literally get capped at the same view amount, and then one will explode. So there is some truth to that, but generally your content fucking sucks. And like, okay, you're shadow banned. Awesome. Now what? So what do you do now? It's make more good content. So it's like, you have no control over it. So literally all you can do from a personal responsibility standpoint is make better content and make more good content. So it's like, yeah, people can complain all they want, but a lot of it's messaging. Like if you knew, that's why I love TikTok, is because you can get feedback super quickly on messaging, which is why I like Twitter as well. So it's like, maybe your topic sucks. Maybe your Zoom sucks. Maybe your lens of how high or low level specificity wise you're sucking. Maybe your sophistication level is too high, so you're coming over everybody's head and nothing is relatable. Maybe it's too low. Like there's so many different things you can play with, but yeah, generally people's content just fucking sucks.
Yeah. So there's never really a case where it's like, oh yeah, dude, your shit is banned. Like you might as well just start a new account or something like that. Like it's just you should just try harder to make better content, get a response, and go from there.
Yeah, I mean, the truth is no one knows, right? Because nobody knows the TikTok algorithm. So there is literally no open answer to that question. You just got to experiment. So either you're making more better content, or you can make the new account and try again. You don't know. You just got to guess and figure it out, right? Like my answer is as good as anybody else's. No one actually like literally knows.
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen the model that some of these bigger guys are running, where it's like they've got multiple accounts putting out content under their name. Do you do any of that?
No, I've never done that. I think it's a good idea, but never have I ran that.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay. So you said, you mentioned earlier, you talked to some of these guys that don't have, or they have the audience, but they can't sell for shit. They don't make any money from it. And then you imbue the sales sauce onto them. What does that look like? Like, how do you
imbue them with sales sauce?
Yeah. Like, where do you start with these people?
Yeah. So it depends where they're at. So you train salespeople, right? So there's different things of starting. So the framework that I have now is there's 4 levels. So we have call track, let's just call flow, right? Getting from point A to the close. You have to be able to walk that process and see it in your mind. If you can't see it in your mind, you're fucked. You have to know where you are at all times, right? So that's kind of, if they don't have that, it's so hard. You can't train them. They need the call track, right?
Yeah.
Once they have the call track, what up? You want to tap in? Podcast? Let's get it. Once they have the call track, at that point, then I go to pre-handling objections, right? So once you know how to run the call, stop getting objections. Once you can stop getting objections, objection handle, right? Because you're still going to get money. You're still going to get spouse. You're still going to get, I got to think about it. You're still going to create your own objections in weird ways. And then level 4 is basically what I call sauce. So sauce is like higher level psychological techniques. It's building in systems of your sales calls. So when you have something happen on a sales call, you fix it and then iterate the call for next time. So it's kind of like a layers. So it's like call flow is the biggest, and the average person that can't sell, they don't have call flow and they can't follow it. They're lost in the ether of a sales call. There's no structure or direction. That's like the biggest part, in my opinion, is just like going from A to B, or A to Z, I mean. And I had that naturally. Some people don't have that at all. So you got to infuse it through reps.
Yeah. I think I was definitely more of the engineering, like quiet guy type. Like I didn't naturally have that. But there's some of I mean, the sauce, bro. Like you can teach. Step 1 you said was the call flow, the call track, and then moving.
What's going on, man? I'm Davi. Nice to meet you.
We got a closer in here. We got double high ticket closers out here.
Let's go.
On an offer.
Let's go. So
Grant's giving me a lot of sales training. I saw your serial sales stuff. It looks pretty fucking awesome. So I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, he's literally closing. So the sauce that we're about to drop on people's fucking face is gonna be crazy.
Yep.
Let's go. Let's go. So this point A to point B, like the call track, you have to have visually in your mind where you are at every point in the call. What was the second part?
Second part is pre-handling,
Yeah.
objections, and then objection handling, and then you have what I just call sauce. So like psychological shit. Mental tactics, mental sword work, and iteration of the call itself.
So how many
systems for that?
How many real objections do you think there are?
How many real objections? I think there's really at the core of it all. How many real objections are there? I would say there's one, and it's a trust objection, right? Because if they don't physically have the money, like if they don't tangibly have that, I don't call that an objection. I call it a logistical obstacle, right? So like, oh, I literally have $10 in my bank account. That's not an objection. That's I don't have cash. So it all comes down to trust. Because if you told somebody, hey, bro, I'm going to make you $300,000, just pay me, and you literally trusted me, then I'd fucking sell you. But everything else is a trust objection, right? Or, it all comes down to trust because it's both ways. So they either don't trust you or they don't trust themselves. You have self-belief issues, right? It's like, oh, they don't think they can actually get the fucking result themselves. So it's either, there's two sides of trust. So I would say trust is the only one.
Dude, that's based. There's only one objection and it's trust. What about like the whole partner thing, the business partner, the spouse, all that?
It's trust. Because if they knew that they could actually get the result, then they would have enough certainty to talk their spouse into it, right? It's that simple. Like if they knew for a fact it would work. Now the problem is you can never get, that's the ideal, right? Ultimate certainty is a sales call ideal. If people are like, this is obviously going to work. So you're always working in lower gradients of that. But if they literally fucking trusted you, they would do it. So for example, I get a lot of people that come to me from Twitter, let's say, or the internet, and they have their spouses and they're just like, yo, this guy's going to hook you up. And the spouse just says, okay. There's no conversation. There's really no sales. It's just like, oh, he said, yeah, let's do it. So it's that kind of thing. But to everybody's credit, you're a random person on the internet. Nobody knows you. So the whole game is trust.
Yeah. Like
it's just, do you believe what I'm telling you? That's it.
And what I would add to the spouse objection too is like, there's really two spouse objections. There's I'm actually sold on this and I just need their permission for whatever reason.
Yep.
And then there's a smokescreen, right? Like I'm not really sold. We're going to talk it over, whatever. So you're going to get that objection either way. But if you actually sell them on it, then they will go sell their spouse.
Yeah.
And also, like, I've never thought about that question you asked me. So are there more than trust? Who knows? But from now it sounded great. So
yeah. Yeah, no. I mean, when you think about it, it does come down to it, bro. Like I've always thought the money or value, the partner, and then the timing and, anything else like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I don't know if it's a good fit for me. It's like, it's not like a real objection. And
those are logistics though, in my mind.
Right.
You know what I mean? So the spouse one kind of makes sense, but it just comes back to trust. So it's like the time, that's a logistical. People call it objections. You can call it an objection,
right?
But it's like, for me, an objection is solving certainty and trust, where logistics are me solving actual logistical problems. So like, oh, I don't have time. Let's fucking find time. Oh, I don't have enough money. Let's fucking figure out a way to get you to pay for that, right? So these are like, you have like trust issues and then logistics to be solved.
It's the product and it's the scenario.
Yeah.
100%.
So your big thing is, well, one, like let's try to not get any fucking objections. When you're working with your clients and even doing this yourself, like are you loading up on like all the pre-call resources and the applications, and so like doing all the front like heavy lifting on the front end, or are you like during the call like you are meticulously going through this and like crossing out these potential objections?
Yeah, I don't do really any prep, to be honest, like ever. Like I just read the application, I just go into it. What I do though, what I do is basically when you run the sales calls, you're going to get data every call, right? So then think about what objections you're getting, and then all the common stuff, like the reasons that they're saying they're not going to buy or they're uncertain or how they found you. You can build stories into your pre-handles to solve that objection on the front end. I learned this from my mentor, bro. This guy, he didn't close. He would just be like, these people would be like, can I buy? I've never heard him close. They'd be like, oh, can I buy this? And so like we'd have other agents come in and they'd be like, oh, you're getting the easy leads. And he's like, you guys literally don't understand how good I fucking am at sales. And so they'd be like, okay, we're going to give you our leads. They'd bring the hardest leads that they had. Same shit, bro. Just, oh, can I buy? So his pre-handle game was, I've never seen anything like it. So that's one thing I've really downloaded from him, is just like, you cannot get it. Like, there's ways to not get objections, and he does it. And so that's kind of like, and then on the call, spontaneously, I'm listening to their language and I'm tonality, and I'm hearing different levels of uncertainty. And if I can, now I can kind of pinpoint and pre-handle as I go, if that makes sense. So that's, but I've taken fucking 40K sales calls or whatever the number is. So like, it's a lot of on the fly stuff at this point.
So when you're taking your sales calls, like more in like the high ticket space, or you're coaching these other people, like, I'm just curious, are you booking in for like 30 minutes and like, hey, we're going to chat for 20 and like you can do it in that time? Or like what kind of timeline do you usually work on to like get all of this pre-handling and stuff done?
It depends. An hour is normal, right? So now I'm selling my own offer, so it's shorter because it's way easier.
Yeah.
So it's like, that's not even a good example to use. Standardly, an hour. Davi's at fucking like 2 hours on his calls. So he's selling a physician burnout offer, but his style is very different than mine. So that's something else to be aware, is everybody has different styles. Like he like God level, this dude can paint emotional pictures and make people cry on the phone. I mean, everybody cries on his calls. It's crazy. But these calls are 2 hours. So we're basically like, okay, your style is goated. How do we shorten this from 2 hours to like an hour-ish? So an hour is the answer, right?
Also, like what I would add on the time standpoint from the prospect's viewpoint is that if you're talking about your product and yourself, they will get bored quickly.
Yes.
If you're talking about them, like if I put together a 3-hour presentation on the life of Grant, you'd sit there locked in for 3 hours, more than the fucking Godfather, right? 100%. So like if you're going to be a long sales call, like you want to be listening to them, because no one ever gets fucking listened to, and you want to talk to them about them. And if they feel heard like that, and they feel like you're being present with them, because how often in your day-to-day life do you have someone focus completely on you? If you focus on them, then you can see what objections you're going to get, and you can pre-handle them, and you can do it in an hour. Maybe it'll take longer, but as long as the focus is on them, you're still going to have them with you at the end of that call.
No, that's a great fucking point, because closers miss the mark. They don't talk about the person, but if you're talking about them, as long as you have some call control, right? Then longer is kind of better.
Yeah.
So
and it depends.
Like our pitch is physician coaching, and there's like 3 pillars to the coaching program, and the 3 pillars are the 3 biggest problems that the prospect just told me. So I don't have some generic pitch I'm busting out about we do this or we do that.
Yeah.
It's, okay, you said you're struggling with presence. So, and you said, and I tie it back in, and they're fucking glued to the camera.
Yeah. We listened to a sales call he had yesterday, and he kept saying, you said, and every time we're like, fire, like you said. And that, I think, is the closer's biggest problem, is they're focused on themselves, except for the person's fucking problems. It's like, dude, what problems does this guy have? Solve them.
Yeah.
I mean, it's so black and white.
Yeah. I was closing on a fitness offer, and sometimes the calls would run, like we'd book in for about 45. They'd usually run to like an hour. Sometimes if there was a shit ton of like self-doubt objection type stuff, they'd run for like hour 15, hour 30. But like when you guys are running these calls that are an hour or 2 hours long, like, is this where you're just spending a lot of time in the discovery qualification phase, to where like now we're 40 minutes in and we haven't even talked about what it is that we're going to potentially do with them? Or like, what's the time structure on that look like?
Yeah, you run it differently than I do. Our styles are very different. So yes, basically I'm just like, what are the problems? I call it getting their psyche mapped out. I need to see exactly how they think, how they set up the problem, how they make decisions, what they think about their situation, why they haven't been successful, why they have been successful, what unique value props they want, not what I want. They'll just tell me what they want. So I'm basically presenting a canvas, and I'm getting them to tell me what to sell them via questions. And then they're going to paint the picture. And I'm like, guess what our product solves? That. And they're like, oh, fuck, I'm going to buy. So, and then I'm thinking, okay, if I pitch them this of exactly what they just told me, based on what they told me, what objection do I think they're going to give me based on their personality type or whatever they've hesitated on? Let me build a story in as a pre-handle, so I'm getting those out of the way early. And then once I feel like I've gotten every objection out of the way, I've handled every pre-handle, I'm going to pitch, and then obviously go from there. But most of this stuff is just them fucking talking about them. And then also subtly before the pitch, if I find a self-limiting belief, I'm reframing and imbuing them with certainty, if that's going to be an issue for the close. If I see a mental model that's incorrect, that's not going to help them get results in the offer, like, oh, I can't do it because of this, I'm hashing that out before I even pitch, right? You got to get them to think the right way. You got to like prep. It's like you got to prep the pig before you fucking throw it in the spit, right? So it's like, I'm going to prep you if you're a good fit, and then I'm going to close you, if that makes sense. But mine are, so that's like 40 minutes of that and then 20 minutes for the pitch usually. But this dude's doing fucking 3-hour calls. So we're trying to get that down.
Yeah.
And they're closing.
That's
good.
They're closing.
Yeah, that's good. So if someone comes in and like one of the first things they say, like you can just tell they've kind of got like, you know, negative self-belief and they're like, I don't know if I'm able to do this kind of shit. Like what would you use? But you said you reframe and you basically nip that in the bud. Like, how do you go about restructuring their like view on this stuff?
He's God level.
I've got 2 on those. So the one would be tell them a story of someone who's way worse, right? So like the dating offer, it's like, yeah, we actually had this 5-foot guy that had autism, but he figured it out, right?
Yep.
So, or we had this doctor who was so burned out that they weren't getting out of bed in the morning. So that kind of story. And the second, it's like the classic Viagra marketing technique. Like, this is going to work so well that you might actually have to go to the hospital, right? Like, you're worried about your penis working. You're going to get an erection for 4 hours. So it's like, I had a physician who was really worried about getting back into the workplace. And a big part of our pitch is that, well, when you get the job offers, we're going to help you pit them against each other and negotiate. So the implication there is you're not going to have 1 job offer. You're going to have 10, right? So this is going to work so well. So take someone who's worse than they are that did it and show them that it's possible, and then explain that we're actually going to go way farther than you even thought was possible.
So that would be level 4 of the sauce, right? So those are 2 parts of sauce. So it's like stories that break belief. You have belief breaking stories. You have the bridge, and then you have exactly what he said, which is you can solve the problem that they actually want. You're minimizing that, and then you're selling a different problem. So like for dating, it's like, oh, I want to get a girlfriend. It's like, bro, look, that shit's fucking easy. You got to worry about like managing a roto of 5 beautiful women. Like that is like, oh shit, he just minimized the fucking thing that I wanted. So it's different tactics like that. But basically, they're going to tell you where their limiting belief is, and then through a story, you can change it. So it's like, hey, look, this guy, I use that all the time. This guy that sucks way more than you did it. So why can't you do it?
Yeah.
And then if they don't light up and you can't see them like getting imbued with energy, then you have to dig and dig and dig until you find that little like crumpled ball of yarn that you can unwind together. And then like they'll lighten up. Like you can see them be like, oh, and their voice sounds better. And it's like, okay, we got him. And then keep going.
That's the same like analogy I use. Like you got to find the loose piece of string and just pull it 100%. Until you pull it out, and then the like piece of fabric looks normal again. Looks good, right?
Yep.
Cool. Let me think. What's a good question? What are some topics that the audience would like to listen in on?
Do they tactics, or what do they like usually?
We have. I mean, I have some questions that I was going to say for the end, but kind of piggybacking off of what we were talking on now. I'm trying to think of some things that are that would be applicable there. Let's see.
We can go like biggest fuck ups that I see.
Yeah, that's probably a good one. Yeah, I'm sure you see.
There's a lot.
What are they?
There's a lot of them. The biggest one is they don't listen to the prospect and pitch to the prospect. So they have their generic pitch, and it's like, hey, John, they don't actually think about getting into this person's mind and like getting on the same team as them and going together. And same team alone is a huge closing principle. It's like, we're together here solving your problem. It's not me against you. So every call I have, it's us together. I'm genuinely on your side. Let's actually solve your problems as a team. So they can't do that. And then what happens is they just go, okay, let me ask you a bunch of questions. What do you want to do here? Okay, cool. So, okay, we have actually this thing, and then it does this. And it's a mismatch of like, they already have the hammer ready, and they just are waiting to get the person to dump, and they're just going to use the fucking hammer. Where like you can take any offer and you can tailor it to the person based off what they say, but you have to listen to the person. And also you have to be able to weigh value props for them. So based on 10 problems that they have, what is most urgent, which is what are you pitching to first? And then how are you downselling on the urgency of their values, if that makes sense. So being able to weigh pain points is a huge problem with closers, is they don't know what the person actually wants.
Yeah. How do you go about, like, especially when you're teaching someone newer or less experienced, like having them follow these guidelines and these frameworks? Like, is this something where you're like, dude, fuck the script, I don't rock with scripts, like just follow this framework and do this? Or like, what's your take on the whole like script versus no script versus framework versus like all that debate?
Yeah. So frameworks. So
Yeah.
basically, you need to know where you're at the call at every single moment. I tweeted this like a long time ago, but like somebody should be able to pause your sales call no matter where you're at in it. And you should be able to articulate exactly where you are on the call and what obstacles you have in front of you and what you just overcame. So you need to see it in your mind. And if you can't see a sales call in your mind and like literally have it mapped out visually, like it should look like a train track. You're like, okay, I'm here in agenda rapport. Okay, I'm here discovery. Okay, I pre-handled this. And you should know that exactly. That is what you have to have. And then once you have that, you don't need a script because you know it's in your body. It's intuitive. It's like, oh, I know how to ride a bike. I'm never going to forget that. Sales calls are the same way. So if you're going off intellectual memory, like, am I doing this? Am I doing that? You need more reps or you need a better mental model. So it's all frameworks for me, basically. Because it's also going to be dynamic. Like a sales call isn't boom, 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 boom every time. Sometimes this goes here and that goes in the back and this turns and you're like, fuck it, I'm doing something I've never done before. It's super fluid. So there's no one size fits all. Yeah. That's to me, the fun of sales. It's very creative because you're like just reading in the moment, like, what the fuck am I doing?
Yeah.
And you're just saucy.
Well, and I also love what you just said about reps because at a certain point with sales, you have to walk before you can run. Right. So like on 100%. Your fourth sales call, you're not going to be able to say like, okay, this person is really going to be struggling with self-doubt. So I need to do this. So like you get started with the fundamentals and eventually when you know the rules, you can break them.
Yes.
So I think a script is like training wheels. Like it's a good way to get started. And the more reps you get in and the more empathetic you are as a human being, because you had a banger tweet where you were like, there's no such thing as a sales problem. It's a personal problem that shows up on your sales calls.
Yep.
So some people are not very empathetic as a human being. If you're not empathetic, you can't go on a call and pretend to be empathetic and try to solve that person's problems.
100%.
You have to become a better person. And that's why sales is a great form of personal development because you're getting there and helping someone in pain every time you get on the phone. Yeah. So I would say it's a combination of getting those reps in. And then like, if you have a deficiency as a person, you may need to grow a little bit to become the salesperson you want to be.
Also, to add on to that, it's also, let's say you have a script, you need to take the script is there for a reason. So this is something I think a lot of closers mess up is they have their script and they just read it. There's no other thought there. It's like, bro, the reason a script is trying to mimic a natural conversation. So there was no sales scripts back in the day. It was me talking to you and like, hey, bro, you got some fucking spice and tea? You're like, yeah. Oh, I got some silk here. Let's trade. You're like, no, I don't want to do that. It's like, why? Oh, because I'm going to do this and this. And I'm like, well, what if I gave you this? You're like, yeah, cool, deal, right?
Boom.
And then for me to train somebody with that, it's like, okay, how did I just do that? And I rethink in my head. I'm like, okay, I said, so scripts are basically verbal articulations of what's happening just naturally in the real world. And I think closers don't understand that. It's like, bro, this is like, think about what's happening from a sales perspective. Like you're talking somebody into X and they take all the fluidity out of it. And fluidity is what closes. It's the human to human element.
Yeah.
And so like people that suck with people aren't going to be good salespeople. It's that simple. It's a people thing.
Yeah. I've seen that. I mean, because I've seen working with a lot of newer closers, it's like people get a script and it would be irresponsible for a company or a sales manager not to give you a script, right?
100%.
100%.
Yes.
So I see people get these scripts and then, they work through it. They're saying this line and then they get taken off track and they're like, oh, fuck, like, where am I in my script? They're pausing. They're looking for like where they're at. And that's why like I'm definitely more team framework where it's like, dude, my script at any point in time is like 1.5 pages. And it's just like, talk about this, talk about this, talk about this. And it gives me room. And like the people that I show this to, like, it gives me room to kind of just go off in these directions and then be able to come right back where I need to be and then move forward with it. Kind of like I mean, you guys heard of like Jordan Belfort straight line deal, right? Like you want to go off and explore these other, parts of interest, but you always have to come back and direct it in the way that it needs to go.
The script is surface level. So if you know why the script is the way it is, that's what's important. Like if you are a closer or you're a setter and you're on a script and you don't know why the words are the way that they are in the order that they are, you're missing the framework. So you're not going to be a good salesperson because you're dependent on somebody giving you a framework. So the person that made the script has a framework, right? Yeah. And they've created the script from the framework, but you have to know why the shit works. And if you can know why it works, you'll be a good closer.
Yeah, I think even with like, if you're selling to physicians, let's say you sell to like 45-year-old, 50-year-old physicians, and they're all men. Like, dude, you're still going to talk to 100 different types of people, and you're still going to have like completely different conversations. All right, y'all, we had some technical difficulties with the Mexican Wi-Fi, but we're back.
Yes.
We're going to dive straight into some questions that we had from the audience. First one I had for you today. Somebody mentioned that I don't know where he saw it or whatever, but like somebody had reached out to you because you presented yourself in a way where like you obviously know what you're talking about, offering you like a sales job. I don't know if this is something that was like on Twitter or where it happened, but he said he saw it and he was wondering like, how do you go about positioning yourself to get basically inbound leads for opportunities like that?
Mm-hmm. Be really good.
Yeah. So competence is the answer. You have to be good at what you're doing, because the better you are at what you're doing, the more you're going to know about it. And the more you know about it, the more you have to tweet about it. And the more you have to tweet about it, the more people are going to be like, oh, he knows what he's talking about. So your competence is always going to shine through. But building an audience, you have to make it a personal brand, right? So basically, you're just putting shit that you like on the internet and ideas and insights. And we could go forever on how to brand yourself, but it's basically like, if you want a high ticket closing job, inbound leads, you have to show that you're a good high ticket closer, because no one's going to reach out to a shitty closer. Yeah.
So competence, but honestly, if you're competent and you don't know how to show that, then it's not really going to do too much for you.
Yeah. Just talk about what you're doing. So like, you had a sales call. What'd you learn? Post it, or tell people literally what you've closed. Like if you know sales, like you and I and Davi, we can tell a shitty salesperson in 2 seconds. Like, okay, let's do a mock call. Oh, you suck. Like, it's just so blatantly obvious to us. Like, it's hilarious, but people don't know that. So like anyone who's going to hire sales reps usually, but sometimes they don't know sales. Most of the time will probably know a little bit of sales. So it's like, you're going to get exposed anyway. So like just more reps.
Yeah. More reps.
Because like if you are a bad closer, you haven't earned inbound leads from the internet yet. Right. It's like, why would you want inbound closing people to hit you up when you can't close? Like, you're an asshole.
Dude, that's
what fair. I would add to that too is I think it's important to put yourself in the shoes of an entrepreneur. So like, why would an entrepreneur hire a closer? Like, they're successful. They work really, really hard to get their leads. So they don't want to give their leads to some fuckhead.
Exactly.
It's scary for them. Either they've been closing it themselves and that's a pain point, and now they've grown and they're ready to hire, and that's hard. Or they already have closers and they know what a good closer looks like and they're hiring more. It's really fucking hard to find good closers. No one's stamped for approval, like RCA, anything. You could still have a bad closer.
No, yeah, it doesn't matter.
So for them, like, to actually put that trust into someone, they want to go on their Twitter and see a lot of fucking tweets that proves that this dude is actually the shit. So like, you're going to get those inbound leads if you're really, really good at it, exactly what Grant said. But I think putting yourself in the shoes of that entrepreneur and understanding how much trust it takes to hand over your leads that you work really hard for and spend a lot of money on to someone, like, that's going to help you get in the head of like, okay, I actually need to be a fucking beast to take these.
Fair enough. We had I don't know if you know this guy Jacob Greek, but he's a fellow American who's in the whole Latin American travel thing, and he's a sales guy.
Okay.
But he asked, how do you stay focused on work while surrounded by Latinas?
I've never thought that was that difficult, because you have so many hours in the day that you're not with Latinas. Like, you just have to focus, right? So what I do is I'll have 2 or 3 big mover tasks for the next day that I plan out the night before. And I know going to sleep what I'm going to do the next day. And I know roughly, like, I just wake up and work. I don't have a morning routine. I just wake up and do shit. So I know what I have to move the ball forward on. And that's all I'm paying attention to is, did I move it forward how I wanted to? If I do, then you can go hang out with some Latinas. If not, like, punish yourself. Like, oh, I'm spending too much time with Latinas. It's like, that's not a bad thing, and you can definitely do that, but like, move the ball forward in your fucking life first. So like, Latinas aren't the priority, right? Unless you want to just get really good at dating because you want to learn all the dating skills so that when your wife actually comes, you can lock her down in the right way and not lose all frame when you actually are in the relationship. Like, that makes sense if that's what you're doing, but then make Latinas the focus then. So it's just structure, time management.
Yeah. So what's your somebody else asked about the acquisition framework, piggybacking off the Latina concept.
Acquisition framework.
Yeah, what's your game framework in Mexico?
Normal. So it depends where you are too. Like I'm in Playa del Carmen, so like it's very kind of party-esque or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's just game, bro. Like you just pull up, you're funny, good frame. In clubs, I can't really speak fluent Spanish yet. So I just like say shit. So I'll be like, oh, mi esposa, like tu cara es muy perfecta. So like, oh, wife, your face is perfect. And I'll be like, oh my God, like nuestros babies. Is that even nuestros babies? Nuestros babies muy inteligente.
Hijos.
What? Hijos? Yeah,
Children.
I say babies. See, I don't even know. So I basically just say stupid shit and then it works. And they like foreign guys, so that helps. But it's way easier here than the US for sure. But the US is also easy if you have game. So it's easy everywhere if you have game. Like that's why guys are like, it's easier in South America. It's like, yeah, you just suck at game. Like it's easy for me in the US. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Gotcha. My friend Fardid here is saying, what skill outside your typical sales ones would you say is really important that would greatly increase your chance of becoming a successful closer or sales rep? So like besides
you said sales. Again, you kind of lagged out.
Yeah. So besides the skill of sales, what other skills would make you a good salesperson, like as a person, or like what other people skills, I guess?
What other people's skills will help you with sales?
Yeah, like I guess that's the question. It's kind of broken, but what other skills as a person could you have that would help you be better at sales?
Empathy. That's the one. That's the one you have to have.
Yep.
Like you need to know how other people are thinking and feeling, and then also psychology. So you need a very deep understanding of the human mind. And if you can have a very deep understanding of the human mind, and you know how people think and why they think, and you have empathy, so you can actually feel it in the moment when they are thinking what they're thinking. So then you know what's happening, and you can read in the moment. You'll be good at sales, and that'll apply to everything. Like you'll ever do ever.
Yeah. How you mentioned empathy a few times. Like I was never like a naturally like super expressive guy, and I had trouble. Like I could feel empathy, but I had trouble like projecting it, basically like letting people know that I felt it. So like how big of a piece of the equation is empathy to you? Because you've mentioned it like a few times.
In my head, it's like massive. Like that's the punchline. You know what I mean? Like I was just kind of wired like that as a kid. Like I tell this story and people laugh. Like literally, I was a little kid. I had all these fucking stuffed animals that I got from random places or whatever. And then I got another stuffed animal, and then I had it like on my bed, and there wasn't enough room for me and the stuffed animals on my bed. And I felt too bad to put it on the floor. So I put it on the bed and I slept on the floor. So like that was like me at like 4. So I've been wired like that so I don't know. And then I had the nice guy arc, right? So because I am sensitive as a feeling person and I have that naturally, you kind of just default as a nice guy, and you have to build all the expression skills, the boundaries, the leadership. You have to build the shit into yourself. But then if you're a nice guy and you can transition to somebody who's powerful and has boundaries, you're fucking a superpower, because you have like the people that don't have the empathy, it's short-term games for them. But if you can make the arc fully, your life is a video game. Like you just need, so like every nice guy has actually insane gifts that they're just not using, because you can still feel and treat people nicely and have boundaries. And I think a lot of people don't understand that. But I mean, empathy is the punchline. You have to know what the person wants, and you can't guess that.
That's good. You nice guys better listen up. What's your
nice guys need some sauce?
What's your process? What's your process?
Thanks for having me. You guys will wrap this up. I got another sales call in 2 minutes, so appreciate these refreshers. And
for sure,
great talking to you guys.
You can take it here. I'll go in the room. Cool. We're gonna move out, unless you want to wrap it up, but I'll just hit the other room.
Yeah, let me ask a couple more of these user questions, and then we'll wrap it. But what's your process on effectively carrying out self-feedback? It's pretty general question. Yeah, like whether it's, I mean, I guess it could be used in a sales context, but maybe just stuff that goes on in your day-to-day life. I mean, if you have a process.
I think I kind of know what they're asking. So basically, you have to start with what result you want. So let's say it's a sales call, right? So it's like, I want to close this person. And then you don't get the result you want. And you literally just ask yourself why. And then you try to study what you just did. And then if you study it enough times, you'll see where you're fucking up. And then you can actually fix the problem, if that makes sense. So that's what I've always done. Dating, personal development, whatever. So like, let's say you're a nice guy. right? You're a fucking nice guy. Everybody walks all over you. You have no boundaries. You can't speak up for yourself, but you want respect. There's a discrepancy. You're like, well, I want respect, but every action that I'm doing is leading me to no respect. Okay, why aren't you getting respect? Well, I let this person do this. Again, it comes back to a understanding of psychology. So you have to know what's happening. And then it's like, okay, I'm messing up here, 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 and here. You just fix them one at a time. And then eventually you fix them all and you've incorporated self-feedback. So it's just analyzing what you're doing and putting thought into your actions. A lot of analysis.
Yeah. And it's not as comfortable as you'd probably like it to be. All right, last one.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you have to accept truth at some point, and truth can hurt. But you get to the point where it doesn't feel like anything. You're like, oh, I'm. You don't take it personally. You're like, oh, it's like strategy versus self-worth, right? David Mendez always talks about this. I love David's stuff. It's like you fucking up isn't a you problem. It's because you're not employing the right strategy. So don't take it personally. Just fix it.
That's good. Last one for you. I think you touched on this a little bit, but just so we can have it a little bit more concise here. What mindset did you have in the beginning when you started to cold call and close these deals via outbound?
Yeah, great question. So the first one is you have to view it as your life career. What I mean by that is you're not just dialing people to sell them things. You're building skills that are going to serve you for the rest of your life. So you need a why attached. So when I was doing that, and the reason I was able to do so many is because number one, I wanted to be number one. Number two, though, I viewed it as reps. So I was like, every call that I make, my tonality is going to get a little bit better. I'm going to learn how to talk to somebody from cold a little bit better. I'm going to learn how to befriend somebody via the telephone a little bit better. So I viewed it as just literally like a training camp. And that really helped me go crazy because it was like, oh, there's a purpose here. I'm not just trying to sell people insurance. I'm like building my own self. Like I make everything a personal development thing, if that makes sense.
Cool.
So
cool. All right, man. Any last words for, I told you, audience, the type of people that are listening, young guys who probably just want to make the most of their lives and be successful and be happy. Like what are some closing words you'd give to these gentlemen?
Get into sales.
And then just figure it out from there.
Pay Dylan a bunch of money and learn sales and then get rich.
Yeah.
That's what I would tell them.
Just get into sales. Where do the people find you? Where do you want to direct them? How do they work with you? Share all that.
Yeah. Twitter is Retirement Keys. Two words, but put together, obviously. And then IG is my full name, Grant Lannin. So IG, Grant Lannin, Twitter, Retirement Keys. Follow me, and I'll just post random shit eventually until I pitch you and then buy my shit.
Yeah. And if you guys want to go viral on TikTok and print money from thin air, follow this guy. If you want to
print money from the internet and have an audience and build your own business because you can teach something, tap in.
Beautiful. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you coming on. We had the technical difficulties, but we'll piece it together. We'll get through it, and hopefully the audience loves this one. So thank you.
Fire, bro. Thank you so much for having me on, my friend.